Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for the role of mobile in higher education. Today we have a 30-minute webinar and we have some time at the end for some questions. The way the questions work is you can actually type them into the chat window and we'll respond verbally to the questions. So if as I'm going through, if you want to go ahead and type anything in, feel free to do that, and then at the end I will go back and address them. So as an introduction, my name is Sean Sweeney. I'm with iFactory. I've been working in the marketing within the higher education space for about 15 years in a variety of different roles. Today we're going to be talking about mobile sites, and specifically we're going to be going through some planning and best practices, architecture and design and implementation. We have some conclusions that we've drawn from the research that we've done, and some ideas that we want to present in terms of what's next in this space, as well as some takeaways that you can take into your project if you want to go forward with this. And again, we're going to have some questions, a question period at the end will go as long as however many questions there are. So before I get started, I want to give you a little bit of a background about who iFactory is. We are an interactive design and development company with over 19 years experience, and we're a division of the RDW Group, which is a full-service agency. It's the largest independent agency in New England. For both RDW and iFactory, higher education is a core vertical. In the iFactory division, which is based in Boston, among our staff, we have designers, information architects, usability experts, strategic consultants, as well as lots of project managers, engineers, and all kinds of other front-end developers. And so we're really a full-service shop. We've been working in the mobile space for a little while and have been expanding into it quite heavily because most of our clients are really interested in this. In terms of our higher education client profiles, they include public and private colleges and universities, from the very large to the fairly small, excuse me, Ivy League to community colleges. We work in both the undergraduate and graduate space as well as in the alumni space, and we are truly a national company in the higher education space, and we have clients that span from Massachusetts all the way to California. I guess you would say that if it happens on the screen, we are likely to build it. So I'd like to get into the meat of the presentation at this point. Just one little disclaimer. We're not going to be touching on the iPad today. So for the purposes of this presentation, I want you to be thinking about smartphones, and in particular the iPhone or the Droid. If you do have a BlackBerry, and many of our business school friends do, please understand that BlackBerry is a little bit quirky in terms of its operating software as well as its web browser, which I'm sure you're fully aware of. And so many of the things that we're going to show you look great on an iPhone, don't look as hot on a BlackBerry. And so we will really be focusing mostly on the iPhone today. We will be talking about iPads in the next few months. So stay tuned for a follow-up email at some point announcing that webinar. So we want to talk about primary research as sort of the first step. And so before we start a project like this, we always do the primary research. And the purpose really serves many different roles. First off, the first thing we want to do is develop a profile of your user. Depending on the type of school that you are and who you're trying to reach, that user could be in terms of an admissions type of student and their parents. It could be a current student who's currently enrolled. It could be alumni who have left the school and want to stay connected. So we really need to try to develop a profile of who that common user is as much as possible. And then we want to develop use cases in order to be able to test the developed functionality against. And it's important that we understand not only who the user is, but why they're going to be using this platform. We also want to ensure that we're building a site that's usable by your target audience. So in other words, we want to make sure that if your target audience is potentially lots of business students from a graduate program, that BlackBerry is a factor that we have to be aware of. A lot more so than maybe on the undergraduate admissions level, where BlackBerry is less of an issue. And we want to learn from what others have done before you in terms of this space. So we asked some questions while we're going through this process. And the first question really is, who are your mobile users and what information are they seeking from this platform? And it's a very, very difficult question, and it really requires a lot of research. But once you answer that question, it really steers the direction of the project going forward. The second question is, what do your mobile users want and how do you give it to them? Again, there's lots of different potential types of functionality on a platform like this, and so we want to make sure that we're giving the things that they want and leaving those that are not needed off of the solution. We want to ask the question, what are others doing in this space and what is working for them? I'm going to show you a lot of examples today of sites that are working really well in the mobile space and some that are not, and the reasons why. Certainly you want to observe and learn from your peers because there are people who are doing this really well right now, and we want to make sure that you at least get a chance to see what some of those solutions are. Finally, how do we make sure that the money you spend now is money well spent? These solutions are not inexpensive. They're not super expensive either, but certainly you're going to be dedicating part of your budget to this project. You want to make sure that you're not just putting something up that is really unusable and is something that you have to completely redo in 6 months. So these are all things as part of the primary research. And we start off with, in our process, in terms of identifying who those user groups are. I'm going to be speaking a lot about a recent mobile site that we did, which was for the Cornell Johnson School, which is the graduate business school. They have 4 different MBA programs, and in their case, and exclusively in their case, they were only interested in prospective students. They were not interested in existing students. It was not a student portal. It was an extension of their new website, which is designed to attract and drive applicants into their one of 4 MBA programs. In the case of other schools, though, it's certainly not always the case. Prospective students are certainly a big audience, but there's parents, there's the community, there's existing students. And so in order to identify who those user groups are, we do certain things. And the first one is we do a lot of surveys, and we do a lot of focus groups. And so in terms of these things, in both the surveys and the focus groups, we want to review what the goals are, which specifically is to develop a list of features that the users say that they want. This is really one of the most important things you can do in the very beginning. It gives you a really clear understanding of the features that are important to the user, and almost as important is it helps to eliminate features that are not important to the user. All too often we go into situations where members of a staff or members of the university says that they need to have a certain feature or a certain piece of functionality on the website. They don't really have any reason for that other than it's something that they really think that needs to be there. And by doing this research, we're able to very clearly show what the users want, and if that piece of functionality is not something that the users want, it makes an easier argument for getting rid of it so that we don't actually clutter up the site by putting it in there. It also gives you a chance to rank features in order of importance. You are dealing with a limited form factor here, and you certainly have a reduced sitemap. You cannot do everything. And let me underscore that by saying you absolutely cannot do everything that your existing main website does. If you try to do that, the site becomes totally unusable. The mobile site will be unusable, and I'm going to show you some examples of too much clutter that just makes the site really very, very non-user friendly. This gives you a chance then to put only those features that matter most to the vast amount of users. And it really gives you ammunition to just dump the rest. You're not going to have every feature and every piece of functionality that everybody would like, and so you want to put those things that matter the most up. The last goal then of doing these types of user interviews is to develop a list of mobile sites that are frequently used. And I don't mean just higher education sites, I mean all mobile sites. And frankly, it's because this gives you a chance to find out what others are doing and why individual users like them. Gives you a sense of best practices, and gives you a clear understanding of things that are working really well in the marketplace. Keep in mind that you're not the first group, first university, first college to actually do this project. There's plenty of sites out there in the mobile space, and you might as well learn from the efforts of others. Okay. So in terms of continuing along this idea of planning and best practices, we like to do what we call a competitive audit. And competitive is sort of a broad term, and we don't necessarily mean actual competitors in the same vertical, in other words, other higher education providers. It can be other types of sites. The goals, though, of doing these audits is to quickly see what is working by observing the features and functionality of the other people and the other sites that are out there. And it also gives you a chance to see sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly, and to get some sort of firsthand experience in terms of some of the things that are not working great. In other words, image-heavy mobile sites oftentimes load very slowly. If they have a strong color palette, complicated functionality, and it can be very frustrating. You watch as your browser times out, or you watch as it just takes forever for the site to load. And that can be extremely frustrating for the user. And so obviously that is the direction you don't want to go. It also gives you a chance to develop your own opinion of best practices in mobile sites. Certainly if you're going to work with a firm like ours, it is a collaboration, and we want to make sure that we're listening to your feedback as a client. And so if you come with several ideas, we love that. And we want to make sure that the more education you can get on this process, the better the experience is for everybody. And so this would give you an opportunity to